guys, Tracy here. I'm going to be doing a layout today with the Serendipity collection from Basic Gray. I'm doing this layout for Scrapbook Supplies Online, and there's the website right there. And Sherry sent me all this awesome Basic Gray Serendipity goodies, including all of these papers that I'm just flipping through to give you a sense. I know that some of these papers have been shown before, but I've never had a chance to see them in real life. I think this collection was a little bit trickier to get your hands on, especially here in Canada. I've never seen it before. So I really wanted to kind of take a look through all of the papers and get a sense of what my options were before I chose my photos. And she also sent me some of these really cute tiny letters. I love the size of them, and I love that there's 3 different colors, and yeah, there's just plenty of letters there to work with, so that's really great. And then those are the pins and tags, and I'll open those up in a few minutes. And then she also sent me these stickers. And I just really like the colors. I love that red. I love that combination of blue and green and red. It's just really one of my favorite color combinations. So I'm going to get started here, just flipping through some of the pictures I had printed off for scrapbooking with this collection. And I went with the Livy's soccer picture just because I haven't been scrapbooking very much of Olivia, and for a while there I was scrapping lots of Olivia and hardly any Sophie, and so I just wanted to kind of keep it balanced out. I don't do one for one or anything. My kids know I love them both. It's just, sometimes just different pictures are speaking to you differently, but then, lately when I've been going through my album, I've noticed I've got way more Sophie, so I have to even that out. Right there I just took out a couple of pieces of paper that I knew I wanted to use for some other projects that I want to make with this collection, so I just didn't want to accidentally cut into them. So there's what I'm going with as my main papers. And then I'm just going to bring you in close to see, as I look through all of these tabs and tags, I just want to have a look at what my options are for later on. It sometimes determines which papers I end up picking. So fairly early on I decided that plain whitish type of paper would be my background, and so I'm just outlining it, trying to get rid of the cat. She was very persistent there. And yeah, I can't lock her out of my scrap room. My scrap room doesn't have a door, and even the door to the basement has a cat door in it that isn't lockable, so she kind of has free reign. And yeah, I know that she's a little distracting. I know lots of you like her, but even for me, I find her a little too much sometimes, so I do apologize if anybody finds her terribly distracting. I'm just trying to decide on what big blocks of color and pattern I'm going to use, and then I'm outlining my pages. And I actually forgot to not outline one of these edges, and that's why when I put it on there I'm going to overlap it a little bit so I can then cut off the outlined edge, because I didn't want it to be outlined all the way around. I wanted it to have more of a look like it ran off the page. So that's more like what I was looking for. And now I'm going to use this circle pattern across the edge to just kind of anchor the layout or anchor the photo. And I'm doing all of my outlining in 0.08 American Crafts Precision pens, and looking for for something that I can mat that photo in. And I just thought that the print was a little bit too distracting. And I love that Basic Gray includes these sort of solids. They're kind of modeled solids. And I think it really makes it easy to choose accenting colors instead of having to look in your own stash of cardstock for papers to use with your silhouette or Cricut or whatever. And for matting and stuff, you can just go with the solids that are included in the pack. So that's really great about Basic Gray. And so now I have the basic structure of my layout all set up, and at this point I decide that I want to put some scallops using that dark brown color on some of those papers. And so ideally I would have thought of that ahead of time, but I'm not great at planning things out in advance. I'm more of a wing it kind of scrapbooker, and so I'm going to tuck all these in under the under the layers of the paper after the fact. And I'm having some trouble with that punch. That's a Stampin' Up! Punch that I've always had trouble with, and I sharpen it often with tin foil, and I wax it often with wax paper to keep it, but it still gets stuck almost all the time. So the other two scallops that I use there. The smaller scallop is a Stampin' Up! Just the scallop border, and then the larger one is by EK Success, and it's called Double Embossed Dotted Scallop or something like that. Let me just... Yes, it is EK Success Double Embodied Dotted Lace Border Punch. And so now that I've got all those punches punched out, and that tiny little one is the Stampin' Up! Dotted Lace Border Punch, and I just cut it in half so I could get more out of it. I didn't want to have to go through having to punch that again, so I just cut the one that I had. And so I'm just slipping those borders in behind the papers after the fact, which is a little bit trickier than putting them on before you build your layout, but it is doable, especially if you are sure that you put your adhesive further into the middle of your papers. And so I just really like what those various sized scallops do for this layout. It just gives each pattern a bit more punch, I guess, and it also gives each pattern a bit of separation from the pattern beside it. And so I'm using my Tombow Mono Multi liquid glue for the tiny little punch, just because it's so little, it's so thin because I've already cut it in half that my ATG won't go on it. But the ATG works for all the other strips that I cut. And I'm not spending a whole lot of effort with trying to line up the scallops so that they're same on the bottom and the top, because I don't think that anybody's really going to notice that once the rest of the layout is assembled, because a lot of this is going to end up being covered. So I'm going to trim off my scraps and go back to my photo and try to decide where I want to place it. Now at this point I felt like the photo needed a bit of a cushion between it and all of those patterns. Those are really strong patterns, so I'm using this more subtle pattern, also from the collection. All of the pieces that you've seen so far are all from the Serendipity collection, and that just gives the photo a little bit of space and just separates it from those bold patterns. And I used a bolder marker to outline it just so that it doesn't look too different from the background. Now I'm going to figure out my title, and I knew it was going to start with, I started with the word loving it. And so I'm just pulling apart those stickers so they work a little bit easier, and putting out the word loving on using the grid on my table to line it up, and then I'll experiment with where I want to put it. And I knew that I didn't want it to just float in my layout, so I thought I'd use those circle stickers as an opportunity to anchor it on my layout. And then I just found, as I was experimenting with laying it out, that the background was quite distracting. So what I figured I would do is back it on some type of paper. But before I do that, I'm going to figure out my subtitle. So loving every minute is what I ended up going with. So I put every in those brown stickers and then minute in the red. And then I decided I really wanted something to go above loving, and so the word she's is what I went with. So it's she's loving every minute, which is very true. She loves soccer. So there's what it's going to look like, and then I chose that pink paper, another example of how those solids that come in the basic gray collection packs are really, really handy to have. And I was assuming all along that I could just use my largest scallop circle in my nestabilities, and it was too small. So I figured I must have a scallop somewhere on my silhouette collection of shapes, and I did. It was actually part of some card that I had or something. So I had to delete almost all of the shapes and just left the scallop. And I just was sure that I measured the size of those circles and cut out the scallop a little bit bigger than the circles. because I didn't want the circle stickers to cover any of the scallops at all, and it just came out perfectly. So I was really impressed with that. And I'm just outlining it so that the stickers don't get lost on the scallop, the pink scalloped piece of paper, and then layering the inner circle. I love it when companies have those nested circle frames in their stickers. I always use those. Those are one of the most useful shapes that people can include in their sticker packs. So now I always find it hard putting a title on a circular shape because I'm not very good at keeping things lined up. So I was just using my ruler to help me there. I'm just outlining those stickers because they're very light on a light background, and I just want them to stand out so the title's more readable. And at this point, I have to say, this is my favorite part of this layout. I love this homemade embellishment / title. I just love this journaling piece, or sorry, this title piece. It was really, really fun to make, and I think it turned out really nice. But, it's got to be fun to make if you're going to enjoy it, right? Because for me, it's all about the process. That's part of why I do these process videos, is because, I love just making things. And so there's what I've got so far, and I'm going to experiment a little bit with placement. And I'm moving the paper there, the photo, because I had to, in order for the title to land in the right place on her arm and also land in the right place on the background papers. So that's why I moved her photo a little bit, just so it would line up better. And now I'm doing some circular sewing, which is really always a bad idea for me. I'm not good at sewing in a circle or a straight line for that matter. I'm good at random messy sewing, so it does look okay. It's just not my strong point. And so then I do some sewing across the title as well. The sewing is really, really subtle because it's white and everything is quite light, but I do like the additional texture that it adds to that piece. So there's my piece, which I really, really love. It was just so much fun to make. I love it when something is fun and also comes out in a way that you're happy with, because sometimes it's fun and you're done and it's kind of like, oh, that sucks. But yeah, that happens a lot too, but didn't happen today, so that was nice. So now I'm going to kind of experiment with what else I want to do with this, because so far it's just paper, and that's okay. And in many ways, this layout is very papery, right? Like it doesn't have a lot of non-paper texture to it, and that's kind of okay. I was kind of going for that look on this one. But I kind of felt like it needed something. So I'm kind of thinking about, am I going to put a stick pin through that, like in at the top and then come out on the other side of those letters, or what am I going to do? So I couldn't decide, so I went back to my sticker collection. And one tip is that it's always easier to outline your stickers when they're already on the sheet, when they're still on the sheet. That way, if you go off, you're only going off onto the outside parts of the sticker instead of going off the sticker and onto your layout. And then your mistake becomes a lot more obvious. So I wanted a circle popping out underneath of those layered banners, and so I just took the bottom half of that sticker, because I'm pretty sure I can use the top half for a similar type in a similar way on another layout. So now I've decided to do my journaling, and I went with that green piece of paper. It's one of the flags from the pins and tags little assortment. And so I'm actually drawing my line. I never do this. I never draw my lines. And my journaling is always crooked. So I thought I'll just do lines this time. And, sometimes I'll do the lines in pencil and then erase them, but that's just so much work that I just decided to do my lines in marker and just leave them. And so there's my journaling. You'll see it in the close-ups. And it's basically about how much Olivia loves the soccer season. Outlined that little piece of green paper, and I'm just going to put it underneath of the title. I just felt like the title needed something to kind of anchor it a little bit and to fill up that space. So now I'm looking for a red piece of paper that I can punch a heart with. Gonna outline that heart in white, and then I'm going to staple it onto the green gonna glue it in place first because it's hard to staple something that's already on your page, and then I'm gonna glue it down so that it doesn't flop up. And now I really wanted to use something dimensional, and so those stick pins were something that I don't use very much, so it's always nice to have something a little different on your layout. And when I do use stick pins, I like to stick them into adhesive foam, yeah, foam adhesive, I guess. So I just put a piece of foam adhesive under where those pins were going to be going in, and just kind of tried to layer them in a random kind of way. So here are the close-ups on this one. My camera's a little funny here, but yeah, there it goes. So there you can see those yummy scallops and some of my journaling there. And there's that scallop circle title piece, which was really fun to make. And you can see there how the difference in the width of the marker on the outlining on the photo really kind of, again, adds another bit of interest to the layout. There's how those pins turned out. They're just sticking through the Smile-On, which was already up on PopDot, so that was an easy place to put them. And yeah, so thanks for watching, you guys. If you've got any questions, just leave me a comment.